Hey, it's Chris. Let's do this. Roundup this week. Big names, big games. What do you need to know? Why is a whole lot of money being thrown around? I wasn't kidding. You know me, a little bit tiny clickbaity in a good way. I told you this was going to be the biggest week in June. And so far, easily is going to be, right? So when I say that, I actually mean it. Are you ready? We got a lot of stuff going on this week. We got to talk about it because there's some big names. But don't be fooled. I'm also covering the small publishers, and there's a couple cool small publisher games. But as always, we're going to take a critical eye and look at these. What's right for you? You ready? We're going right into it. Awaken Realms, S.T.A.L.K.E.R, let's go. $1.1 million at the time of me filming this, right? Hidden stretch goals, getting daily unlocks, getting mission upgrades, extra stretch goals with missions and campaign driven Cthulhu Death May Die-esque vibe, right? Kind of Fireteam Zero-ish. Well, kind of a combination. The biggest criticism I have right now, at the time of me filming this, no rulebook. No rulebook. Everybody did a playthrough to get the clicks, but there's no rulebook for us to look at. All they say, and we'll scroll down and we'll talk about this as we go, is that the rule book, it says, comes in 3 forms. A 4-page, sounds kind of nice, open it up, play as you go. Okay, great. A basic set of the rules, which is 12 pages. And then a full rules, 36 pages. I worry about that. Like, this game right here, not 36 pages. Now, this is more tactical. Again, I understand. It's more strategic. It's more creeping around, more Nemesis-esque rather than, Rochambeau with Cthulhu, right? But that's a lot of rules, right? That's a lot of rules overhead. So I have to just put that out there right away. Again, I don't argue with the value on these games. I don't argue with their track record. I think they do a great job at putting out stuff in that sense. But if you're going to get something, the best value is always the core pledge. Now, I wondered how they were going to split this, right? Because I said, how can you make this miniature driven? And the truth of it is, it isn't. It's all miniature driven. The core pledge is the only thing right now that appears to have just gameplay content. Maybe even by the time you're watching this, I may have to do a little update in the middle of the video addendum because they might put out some more information on expansions, because I guarantee that there's going to be a couple other expansions to go along with this. They're going to CMON. I mean, these guys do this in the middle of the campaign. Nothing wrong with it. I just kind of wish, again, everything was out there in the front. Like, say what you will about some of the other stuff with some of the other companies that put it out. Like, I really look at Reggie Games now with Primal the Awakening, and people complain about that left, right, and center, right? Like, oh my gosh, the all-in is so expensive at the end. Would you rather be nickel and dimed in between here and there? Because that's the essential difference of what happens with some of these campaigns. And it works. It's marketing. It's FOMO. It's the rush of, a little more. And again, I have no problem with this. The other question I worry about, though, is this zone survival. Basically, this is their free-for-all mode. But the free-for-all mode, it says, is you're going to have a script book that goes along with it. So that's a script book still going along with it. So it's not totally freeform. I guess you kind of need some of that. I mean, it reminds me more of like a Dead of Winter vibe, right? Where you kind of got the script that you're going along with, only in that sense you're flipping cards versus flipping and doing that. Again, you're going to get a better value. The $95 pledge with the stretch goals, I have no argument against that. I just hate also the fact that they've got you can make 7 payments of $100. I just really don't, this easy pay credit system that they've got over in GameFound, I'm just not a big fan, right? Like I am one of those people, if you get a credit card bill, you pay it off incomplete. And if you can't afford to pay it off incomplete, you probably shouldn't be putting all the stuff that's on there in the first place. So I look at this and I go, when they say 7 payments for your total campaign, like if you're having, like what I'm looking at getting the core pledge, right? If I have to make 7 payments to be able to pay that off, something is wrong with my monetary discretionary funds in that sense. Now, the only add-on expansions right now are just miniatures. They're just miniatures. Otherwise, you get standees, right? Leisure Games, Team Standee, folks. Boom. And they give you all of the different expansion here. They're broken down here, right? The living ones, the anomalies, everything else that you need to know. The missions, they kind of go through here as well. Village, I like this. Gives me an ISS Vanguard vibe of helping you keep track of things. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest detriments of Aeon Trespass Odyssey, right? There's no way of keeping that stuff separate if you actually have to tear it down. So I like that. And it's not going to be an expensive add-on. It's just included. So that's cool. Give them a lot of kudos for that. But here's the rule thing that I was breaking down earlier, right? The open and play guide, the basic rules, and the full rules. I mean, now hopefully there's a lot of examples and FAQs, but 36 pages, it can't be that many. I like the insert. I like the storage. It's fine. The zone survival, again, like, feel a little weird about that with sort of the scripting, but whatever. Again, this core game, stretch goals, that's what you do. If you're interested in this at all, you see where that ends you. You pledge for anything else in the pledge manager. Don't get any one of these other pledges, right? Now, the problem is you've got 1,800 people here. You've got 570 here, and this is the Legacy Collector. You've only got 102. That's actually not as much as I was thinking, but here's the Explorer Pledge, and this is where people are going in at 3,000, because you're getting terrain and you're getting all the miniatures. Now, again, they're cool freaking miniatures, right, folks? Awesome miniatures. They put out some of the best miniatures on the market. I have no qualms about saying that. Miniature market. Anyway, but that's what you're going to see. And you're getting day one expansions. You're getting a little bit of unlocks with stretch goals, I think, too, as they always do. Here's the stretch pay that I just mentioned, 7 installments. Whoops, missing an L there. And this, I'm guessing, is going to be fleshed out right here in terms of other add-ons shortly. Sleeves, dice, coins, probably 2 or 3 expansions that have gameplay, because there's no way that this is all the gameplay that they have. Absolutely no way. And I guess that's the other thing, right? Is if there's expansion for gameplay, there's going to be an expansion for an additional miniature pack as well. So it's not just going to be one, because they're completely separate now. Take that for what you will. Because then these all-in pledges are going to be a lot more, folks. I'm guessing this all-in pledge is somewhere closer to $400, which is a whole nother video I've been meaning to film recently. Bunch of videos down here. Check them out if you will. Again, no rulebook at the time of me filming this. Need a rulebook. Need a rulebook. Need a rulebook. I would say that if you're looking at this and you're going, how does this compare? I don't think these videos are going to tell you, because they're one campaign and you really need to know what is the nitty gritty of this rules. Is it too much overhead? Is it lighter like this? Or Cthulhu Death May Die is what I'm referring to, or is it something that's going to be distinctly uniquely different than the other dungeon campaign cooperative crawlers that we've seen? Because we've seen a couple of these darker ones. I did one last year as well that was like super deep. And so what am I actually getting? Again, fantastic looking product. I need to see a little bit more though to hook me. There you go. Next up, Firefly 10th anniversary. I mean, it's already at almost $800,000 here in 24 hours. That's really impressive. I won't lie. I didn't think this was going to get probably maybe 500,000 by the end. And they're going to break 1 million before this video even airs. And that's super impressive. I did not know that there were this many Firefly fans. That's a tongue twister. It took me 3 takes. Out there. Deluxe components and those miniatures here. I'm going to highlight these for a real second, right? They say these are hand-painted. Hand-painted resin ships are going to be sent to you, right? How likely are those going to be broken by the time they get to you? That'd be my main concern. But the other thing here is they're FOMOing a little bit. Gale Force 9 has said this is the only time that this is going to be printed. You're getting all the promos, you're getting all the expansions, you're getting the new expansion, you're getting those deluxe resin hand-painted miniatures, and this may be your only chance whatsoever to get it. And you know, if that's true, then yeah, it's going to be a lot more on the secondary market. And do you really care about that? I just didn't know this game was that high in demand. Personally speaking, the aesthetic looks cool until you get to the actual art on some of the cards, because they use some of the actual TV stuff, and I hate that. I absolutely hate that. Now, pick up and deliver, choosing your own style of sandbox type spacefaring adventure. I mean, I believe that this is sort of relatively thought as the standard bearer, especially with all the expansions to customize it and choose. The only problem I have with a game like this, just like with anything else, like Terraforming Mars, if you will, is you often, or even Everdell, I have Everdell sitting right over there. You often will find yourself choosing one over all the others, right? And so you're just not utilizing the others. And then do you really need the all-in if you're only going to utilize one expansion? Do you know which expansion that is? If you don't, should you really be buying them all to find that out? No, you probably shouldn't be. Now, there is a new expansion, and I've seen a couple people already, in the last week or two selling their collections, whereas, 6 months ago, people were, basically having them torn out of their hands reluctantly, only because they could get a, massive price in the secondary market. Now I saw people selling whole collections for $150, so this $220 version actually seems like a relatively good deal, and it reminds me very much so of, speaking of Everdell, when the Everdell Complete Collection came out into crowdfunding, people did the same thing. And that's the question. Do you need more? Do you want more? Again, I always feel weird about 450 tokens. Like, yay, you get to punch all of those and sort all of those, right? Like, are people excited about that? Is that really thought of a good thing? Anyway, total side tangent there. Yeah, you're getting deluxeifications, built-in storage, stored all in one, every promo. They show you how it's going to be stored in here, and so it looks nice. Will it actually shut, though, like that? That's the real question. I have no idea. Why back now? Again, it says now or never. And yeah, I have no qualms about saying it's probably going to be more expensive, and the upgrades are going to be there too. So, again, the biggest problem I have on this page, though, one, there's no rulebook. Two, there's no actually like what you're doing, how you're playing. So if you're somebody new, if you've never heard of this game and you like Firefly, like if you were one of those random Kickstarter like browsers, again, not getting the Kickstarter effect, but it's still getting the GameFound effect, like nowhere on here does it tell you what this game is, right? Are you ready to misbehave? Hey, there's a bunch of stuff. You kind of get this description here, but that's it. There's no other description on the page of mechanics, of how you're playing, of what you're doing it. There's a couple videos down here when you finally get of some of the old stuff from when it came out, how to play, a couple reviews, but that's about it. So I really don't like this page in terms of what's actually on there. I think it's rather lackluster, and I don't think it shows a whole lot of effort to entice people that have not been interested in the game in the first place. This is basically going for the people that are already interested in the first place and playing to that crowd, which I think with something like this, the whole reason that these do so well, the whole reason that you get Castles of Burgundy from Awaken Realms previously is because they appealed to not only the people that have copies and are getting a new copy, but they appealed to the people that were never having a copy in the first place. And so that's what this is lacking right now. So take that for what you will. I mean, shipping, whatever. I mean, that's a huge box. So I'm not really surprised on any of those prices. That doesn't really matter most of the time. There is one project we'll talk about in a minute, though, that I was really surprised by, and I think is needing to be talked about as well from that aspect. So there you go. I mean, again, take it for what you will. More people and more money, and that's why it's such a high funding, even with only 3,000 people. So there you go. Next up, Crossbows and Catapults Restoration Games. Almost $400,000, 3,000 people. So you can look at right now, just based off of what I showed you numbers-wise with Firefly versus this one, right? Like how much the average pledge must be. The average pledge is over 2 times the amount, or around 2 times the amount then for Firefly. So you can guess that this one's going to cost you about $100 right now, or the average pledge is about $100. Basically, they've got new designed little flickers or shooters for these discs, and they're discs this time. And so it definitely looks like it's an upgrade. The only question is it for you? Is it actually going to get played? And that's the problem. There was one of these that came out a couple years ago, and when I was in crowdfunding, it was a European project, and I don't even know if it's been finished at this point. Used to have it on my wish list on Board Game Geek, and I finally deleted it like a year or so ago. It's basically, you just build it in any modular setup that you want. You either move one of your characters to get closer to get a better angle, or you shoot one of your various weapons. They give you a couple weapon upgrade add-ons. They give you an expansion pack add-on to give you basically different pieces to build stuff. And you just have to knock out all of the other people's army, the little people, not the actual buildings. So that's it. That's fine. And so the real question is, can you get it on the secondary market? And just like with the previous one, Thunder Road Vendetta, which Maximum Chrome is not available on the secondary market. They said they're not going to print it, and they're giving basically a different edition that's coming to retail because you're missing out on a little bit of the exclusives, which is a little bit of gameplay content. They kind of said they're going to do the same thing here with this one. To what extent? To how much? I mean, that's going to be the question. Now, Maximum Chrome is getting some real traction as a real favorite so far of this year, and so they've said, okay, maybe there's going to be a reprint, but you might be looking like a year or two for another crowdfunding campaign to do a reprint, so you're looking for another year or two after that. That's what you're looking at here as well. $60 right here gets you access to the pledge manager, though. This is only for retail and mortar. Otherwise, the base pledge is going to cost you $90, $145 for the upgrade, which gets you the brick pack as well as the advanced weapons. So that's not bad. The only question is, again, sort of like with Awaken Realms and STALKER, are there going to be additional expansions between here and the end? And my guess is, based on the limited stuff that I see here, absolutely, right? Because you have the crossbow, the catapult. Okay, great. The weapons cache gives you a ballista and a trebuchet. I love saying those words for some reason. How to play? Again, move, fire, win. Boom. There you go. 3 times the build power, give you a bunch of other stuff to build, give you a bunch of other things here with asymmetric tactic cards if you want as well. I mean, again, it's one of those like, I just bought Thunder Road Vendetta Maximum Chrome Edition on the secondary market. I found a copy at price on retail. Like, I scoured the web. I called game shops all over the country. So I've got one coming to me. The rulebook is there, though. I mean, yeah. I just don't think it's going to stand the test of time for me. I mean, like, I have Crokinole, I have Clask. Those are, great for my kids. I think this would be great, though, for my kids, too. And it's just a question of, do I want to pay $150 for a kid's game? And the answer is, well, to be frank with you, no, not really. Because this isn't a game I'm going to play with my wife. This isn't a game I'm going to be easily setting up on carpet. And the majority of my house is carpet. And so hardwood or table. And, I don't really want to play this on the table. Hardwood, maybe. But otherwise, between cats and 2-year-old, right? Now, granted, kid's going to be almost 4 by the time I get this. But that's going to be the question. Now, if you entice me with a different add-on or a different weapon or something else gimmicky that I'm more interested in, then maybe I'll do it. I'm going to have this one as saved, but I really don't feel confident in my backing it right now, but I can't honestly rule it out either. A little bit of bonus loot, whatever, it's fine. And shipping's whatever. Again, it's a bunch of plastic, large pieces in boxes. So again, I expect shipping to be relatively higher than what it would be on a small game. So I'm interested more than I thought, to be frank, but still not interested enough to guarantee backing it by any means. So there you go. Now, Thiefdom. And I'm wondering if this artist, it really reminds me of the other game that's coming up right now, Castellans of Valeria. I mean, doesn't that look like that character could be stolen right out of Valeria? Anyway, Thiefdom. Almost $40,000. And this is from the team behind Clans of Caledonia. And it's a very interesting looking game. And I think the game itself is very appealing. But the way it's structured, this campaign, and the way it is brought together is really unappealing. And let me tell you why. They give you this game, Thiefdom. You're competing in sets of 3 thieves, going around town, trying to steal things, trying to have more interaction. Interaction on a Euro-based game, avoiding guards, as well as controlling the guards in order to keep your opponents from doing what they want. And I love that style of things. Now, it's pick up and deliver, so that's my big hesitation here. You control one of 3 guilds, and you're going to be going through different houses, carriages, nobles' buildings, and stealing whatever you can get your hands on and bringing them back to your base. You get arrested, you lose your stuff. Okay, you get 6 rounds of doing that. Okay, makes sense, Chris. It's modular. I love that. It looks fantastic. 12 different equipments, 13 guests, 12 different equipment sets, 36 unique guests. Awesome. That looks amazing. I love the idea of that. Okay, it looks like a little bit of almost Garfield Games' style as well. So just those 2 artistic styles are very nice. Component overview, great. You look at the pledge level. Okay, great. 30 euros. That doesn't seem expensive at all, right? Chris, where is the critique here? The rule book's on the page, Chris. What are you going off about, right? Okay, a couple previews. Great. And you get down to the bottom here. Stretch goals. Okay, great. Shipping table, right? This is where my question goes. Shipping table. That was my first thing. I was like, well, that's weird. Why would you put a shipping table on there? Now, here's the thing. They are saying down below, let's read down below first, because this is important. Fulfillment. We're launching 3 Kickstarter campaigns this year. Whoops, that doesn't actually highlight. Turn the campaign pledges into credit into a single pledge manager. So then you can use the money for whatever. So if you back this, you could actually use it for one of the other campaigns. However, we're only going to ship all 3 of these campaigns at the same time. At the end of 2024, probably closer to 2025. So you're putting this money in escrow basically for a year and a half. Year and a half, potentially, to get this. And they run you through what the other ones are. Civilization game called Millennia, as well as a Clans of Caledonia expansion. Pledge Manager's not even going to open until the end of the year, if you're lucky. And there's also going to be a flip and write that's going to be available too. Now, the Pledge Manager is going to open, blah, 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 blah. Incredible deal, early access, digital whatever, stretch goals, sure, whatever. Money back guarantee. Again, this is the weird thing. If you pledge with us, you can get it. If you're an early bird, you're going to get a refund within 3 months, guaranteed. If you pledge any other time, we'll give you a refund in 1 month. That doesn't make any sense to me as a whole. But then this is the other thing, right? I said to you that this is a 30 euro game. So I'm in North America. I'm in North America right now. It's going to cost me 20 euros to get the game. Now, they say that the game is valued at 60 euros. I can't believe that you're taking that big of a loss on a game. You're literally selling it for 50% of the actual cost of the game, the MSRP. not even the actual cost, but the MSRP, like 50%. When was the last time you saw anything like that? So frankly speaking, I can't really believe that. And now they say they're manufacturing, they're not using any plastics, they're trying to do that sort of thing. So maybe, but if you're not in Europe, you know, you're kind of SOL. And now I feel like, you know, I understand where you guys are coming from all the time. And so again, I have no problem with that. Like, do what you got to do as a company. But as someone outside of Europe at this point, you know, or even someone inside Europe, some of these other within Europe, you're paying, again, 2/3 the price potentially, if this is accurate. And that's with the reduction of doing them all at the same time. Like, that's what doesn't make sense to me, because we've also seen shipping container costs have come way down since COVID, way down. And that's the hard time I have believing that necessarily. And I understand it. At the same time, it's just kind of weird to me that other companies aren't running into the same issues too. So what gives, right? Again, I think the game looks solid, but I see no incentive for me to back it on crowdfunding right now, because again, it's not even going to be delivered until 2025. So why would I not wait until a review comes out? Because it's not even like you're going to get it that much earlier anyway with this, because you're going to have to wait for the other projects. And why not just throw the money in 6 months from now, because you can still get this one and maybe see more details on it in the first place. So there you go. It's funded easily. We'll see where else it goes, though. I'm guessing some of the hesitation, though, is from those same aspects that I noticed. So take that for what you will. There you go. Next up, Inventions, Evolution of Ideas, Lacerda, Eco-Griffin Games. Almost $500,000 in 24 hours. We're going to see what this kind of entails. The interesting thing is the last couple of Lacerda games and Eagle Griffin games that have come to crowdfunding, they've slowly been increasing their price about $10 per. And if we scroll down here, you can see that the price point for this one is $129, which is exactly what Weather Machine was. But over the last 4 to 5 campaigns of these heavy Lacerda games, they've definitely creeped up from scope and price. They used to be $99, and then they used to be like $109, $119, and now we're seeing the last couple be more $129. And just the question is, I mean, that's price creep. We see it with the miniature games all the time. We talk about it there, but somehow it's always kind of okayed in this side of things as well. And you go, why is this $129? And that's really the question I guess I have. It's got a lot going on. It's got a 26-page rulebook here. They give you a little bit of overview of what it's going on in terms of how you're going to be shaping these ideas. You're going to be playing potentially over, what is it, like 13 rounds, where each of these rounds are going to be representing a different stage of time. As you can see here on the upper portion, 1 round, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And what you're doing is you're presenting ideas, inventing ideas, and then actually innovating the invention. But the evolution, to use the title, of this idea does not have to happen by one person. It can happen by multiple people over multiple rounds. And you're also going to be chaining these actions together in a card by card, very tactical, they say, but overall long-term strategy. The actions that you're going to be performing, they lay it out right here. This is a really heavy rule book, as you would expect, just by the nature of it in the first place. Citizens are going to be able to be used to gain your influence, your ingenuity points that are going to be the victory points by the end of the game. And you're going to be having assembly as well as main actions and chain actions, like I talked about, depending on what era, track, and milestones you're going for. Other than that, you know, I'd say really go check out a video. There's a lot of information here. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff. Again, with all these games, you're going to be in tons of components. They've already upgraded a bunch of this stuff as well, and that's probably why it's realistically the price that it is. So take that for what you will. Again, how does this differ from the other Lacerda games? What makes it better, worse, or about the same? I have no idea. Now, the rulebook, I will say, has a definitive leaning towards the 4-player, and so you just need to know that they mark it so that you can tell the differences between the 4-player in the black, the 3-player in the blue, and the 2-player in the red. And I think the 2-player, they actually said in the forums, I think you're using a bot too, so take that for what you will. No competitive mode is set for it at this point. Now you can order extra $12 for a signature decal. If you want to pay over $120 extra, you can get an early copy. And when I say early copy, folks, let's not kid ourselves. These copies aren't coming 6 months early, so you can be the coolest kid on the block. It's coming a month early, and you're going to pay $120 for a month early. And some people are definitely going to do that. And I believe this actually sold out last campaign with Weather Machine. And yeah, even at the time of me filming this, right, less than 24 hours in, there's only 41 of 120 left. So, man, that is a lot of cash to throw around just to get it a month earlier than everyone else. So, I don't know. To each their own at that standpoint, so take it for what you will. I wish I could say more and give you more details, but this is outside my wheelhouse. I just want to cover it in case you are one of those rare, heavy people that's watching this channel, and I thank you in the first place because you're a rarity. So there you go. Next up, Castellans of Valeria. Now this is Valeria, the next in the setting or the line of these games from Daily Magic Games. And what you've got going on here, again, 200% funded this time, it looks like a heavier Euro version of Dice Kingdoms, if you will. If you're familiar with Dice Kingdoms, they're the roll and write style of things, which I previously reviewed. This is just a lot heavier though, because it's got a similar setup where you're rolling dice at the beginning, allocating them out, and then drafting them to one of the various areas on your own individual player board of these 5 different actions that you're going to be taking. Then you have an additional action over here, followed by the scoring phase, and then you reset, and then the turn order gets passed around. And it's got very similar vibes, very similar aesthetic of Dice Kingdoms as well, but obviously it's a much, much heavier game. A couple videos here that'll run you through what you're going to get. There's already pre-stretched stretch goals. It's a deluxified essentially already, and you're going to get these deluxifications that go along with it. So whether or not they're worth it for you, 28 citizen cards that are all unique, that are going to be influencing the game with unique actions every single time you play. And then you're going to have a few of these other aspects that they're going to talk about, including the tokens and just all upgrades from that aspect. So the rule book is actually relatively straightforward, but it's long. Speaking of 32-page rule books, 32-page rulebook. Now this though has, as you can see, an example here from the monument actions, 2 examples of the actual action on the page in the first place. So that's kind of nice in terms of, okay, how are you actually playing it? Now obviously all the pictures aren't in there, but it gives you all of the things that you need to know, but it's really a lot more information than you necessarily may want. So this is a heavier read than I expected, and that's why I say it's a little bit more of a get into Euro than an easier access. So price point is $50, which is fine. That's okay. I mean, I don't know what to make of that one. Say what you will, one way or the other. I don't really know how exclusive these are. I don't really know how available a lot of Daily Magic games are at retail. I think they sell them through their own web shop, but especially with the upgraded version, it's probably not going to be as available or available at all. So take that for what you will, but again, you're going to have to read the rulebook on this one. I'll criticize them just like I did with the other ones. There's not enough on the page that tells me the exact flow of the game. Although I really like this graphic up here at the top that literally like runs you through what you're seeing and what you're doing. It's a nice, decent summary there, but 32 pages again is a lot to read. So if you really want to check this one out, you're really going to have to dive deeper into this one. Next up, we have Fairies and Magical Creatures from the same company, the same designer of Raccoon Tycoon. This is well funded already, almost 100% funded at the time of me filming this. This is a much lighter follow the leader style strategy game. And so what you've got essentially going on with this, again, 5 similar actions that you're going to be taking, but these 5 different actions are going to be completely different because how you're going to be taking them depends on the first player again. Now with Valeria there, you each draft a die, but how you use the die can be manipulated, and what ends up with the face of the die determines what you're going to be taking or how strong your action is, depending on how that works. But this, you're going to be simultaneously following the leader with the same action that the leader does of these 5 that are available to you in the first place. And the 5 that are going to be available to you in the first place, as you can see here, we'll scroll down and get to them. Gaining trust, building a garden, befriending, helping, and calling fairies. And so all of those are, relatively straightforward once you get to it. The trick and the difference is, and why first player matters, is because first player can also play a card or discard a card from their hand, because it's a little bit of a deck builder drafting style situation. You've got a polyomino deck building game essentially combined into one. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be drafting these cards as one of the befriend a fairy. And then if you have those cards in your hand, you can play a card if you're the first player. Helping Hand allows you to play those cards in the first place. Calling the Fairy allows you to draw cards back into your hand. Building the Garden puts down the polyominoes. And Gaining Trust, there's several different factions that you're going to be affiliated with. And if you gain their trust, you get an additional polyomino that's going to be used to score on your board as you slowly fill out your garden, because this garden is going to be one of the main ways that you get victory points as you fill it up, sort of a la a roll and write-esque vibe, if you will. And so these various icons are going to give you different bonuses, but how you connect the paths to flowers are also going to give you victory points, but they all have to be connected to the path, and the path has to be continuous. You can't hook up a path elsewhere, not, touching a previous path. And so those are going to be the different aspects of things that you're going to have to deal with. Now, the real incentive again on this one to get it on crowdfunding is maybe a slightly cheaper price and some postcards. That's really the reason to get it, because the base game itself is going to be $50 with deluxifications. And if you want all of the other non-stuff with bags and tokens and the like I mentioned previously, some of the other stuff down here with the poster and the postcards, that's going to cost you a whole lot more. It's going to cost you 2.5 times that before shipping of the game. So I'd say maybe hold off if you don't want any of the other quote unquote exclusive stuff here with the gift box, the postcards, and the premium content. Otherwise, you can get it if you want, but it's definitely gonna be a lighter style game. I like the interesting combination of deck building and polyomino, but again, need to see before I do. Now, next up, one of my favorite small box publishers coming back to crowdfunding, only an 8-day campaign, so check this one out. It'll probably be done by the time we film next week. 200% funded. This is ExoFauna Duo, and essentially what you're doing, you've got 2 animal holes, and you've got 24 cards in each deck, 3 cards of 8 different organisms that are going to have asymmetric abilities, and you get to play one of their abilities depending on whether or not there's already one of those organisms around the watering hole that you've already laid it down. And the objective is when there's 8 cards surrounding these watering holes, one on each side, then you claim that watering hole for whoever has the most of their color, because the organism's abilities are going to give you the ability to manipulate and combo as you play them down. And like I said, $18 gets you shipping, handling, and the game, because they don't do Pledge Manager. So this is another great looking, fantastic game from them. The rule book is 2 pages, and it's kind of a little sparser, and that was my big problem with their previous one, was it just didn't give you all the minutia that sometimes the abilities need to have a little bit more explanation of. You know what? So be it. It's great looking art, great looking games, and here's a couple of the other ones. An Empty Throne, that was the one I did, and I talked about. So take that for what you will. But yeah, small publisher, not going to get it anywhere else. Not going to get anywhere else, folks. So definitely give this one a look-see if you like 2-player, light, fast-playing, but very tactically strategic card games. There you go. Next up, we have the relaunch for Phantom Epoch, and this is already funded, over 200% funded at this point. It sort of gives you a ISS Vanguard meets Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion sort of vibe, if you will, because they've got the Spiralbound notebook in terms of the grid-based map system that they're going to be using. But I'll warn you right now, the rule book is 64 pages. The key concepts are relatively straightforward, but there's a lot going on because you're going back and forth, missions, campaign, and then back to your abandoned spacecraft that you have called the Phantom Epoch in the first place, or between battles and scenarios, if you will. So you go back over here, and it gives you a 40 mission sci-fi campaign game, character progression. Now, the other interesting aspect that sets it apart a little bit is that you don't need to be playing 4 characters. You can actually just play 2 characters, but you can only have characters simultaneously of one of a kind of each class. So if you're doing multiple characters, you can create multiple characters during a campaign, but they have to be different classes. So that's what you're going to have to be doing and just keeping track of in that sense. There's a standard edition and a deluxe edition. There's an expansion that goes into the deluxe edition, and there's another expansion that also is set apart from it here called the Arsonist. Again, adding new missions, adding a new class that you can play as. Deluxifications are going to get you a better upgrade, as well as some miniatures to go along with the HP tracking bases, which are kind of cool, actually. I kind of like those. I'm not sure I would buy them, but cool quality of life measure as a whole. Deluxe mission books as well, and then the game trays. So standees versus miniatures, right? Where you want to go. Early Bird is going to be ending by the time you guys watch this. And again, there's a lot on this page. And I would argue that you should probably check out the How to Play, because it's going to be maybe more concise than a 64-page rule book. And they've got some community goals here as well, but there's a lot of stuff here that you're gonna be doing. Looking out for infamy, building your arsenal, carrying the weapons that you go along with you in each battle. There's an initiative-based combat system with a card-driven element. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. I can't really give it a better synopsis, just because I think you're going to have to go look at one of these playthroughs instead, because these are big, long scenarios potentially, depending on how many players and how big the campaign actually is going to go. So, yeah, check it out. It's clearly doing a lot better. They clearly have restructured it and are doing a good job of restructuring it compared to the first time around. So I give them a lot of kudos there. But it's not one that I can give you a 2-minute synopsis of. So if you want this and you want to see something different from a sci-fi standpoint with a dungeon crawl aspect, there you go. Next up, Solar Titans. This is a card drafting-esque or deck building style, head-to-head, ship battling, take that, knock your opponent's ship out before they knock yours out while drafting your components and upgrading your ship back and forth. And essentially what you're doing is you have these marketplaces on the side you're going to be buying cards from. You're going to be firing the weapons that are on your ship to the nearest part, depending on the range of the opponent's ship across from you, and you have to knock out certain parts of their ship in order to win. Now, it's got strategic value as well as tactical nature in how you're going to be attacking and going back and forth. The rulebook, tabletop simulator is all out there. Your command deck is the thing that you're protecting, and how you set up your configuration at the beginning may determine how you want to play in the first place, because it says right here, as you can see, 8 different ship layouts. Galactic Market, 2 different rows of that, and combat is based on the weapons that you have available at your disposal each turn. At the end of each turn, you're discarding and drawing back up to 5 cards that you're going to have the sequence or the ability to play through. And the other aspect is, it's not just a straightforward do 1 action per turn like it is on a lot of deck builders. I mean, you can do whatever you can do. Buying, firing, modifying. All of those can be done on your turn before you end your turn, and it goes back clockwise order. And it's got a little bit longer rulebook, but these are relatively big pages too. So it's not quite as long as it actually appears. So we're talking price point here. We're talking Fleet Captain, $25. Art book is going to get you $35 with both the stretch goals on each of them. And you're just going from there. I mean, it seems kind of nice. It's really light. It's got some tactical strategy there. How do you want to play things depending on your ship configuration? And how do you want to actually have a few game modes in order to sort of go head to head with a puzzle-like nature of can you overcome me or not? Yeah, there you go. Solar Titan. Relatively short, sweet, and to the point, and it's funded, so check it out. Halloween 2, the board game, I'll just leave it at that. It's kind of a roll and move across the board, and it's got Mike Myers. It's got $50,000 somehow, and it's got some stuff on here. Yeah, that's about all you know. That's about all you need to know. But if you're interested in Halloween stuff, check it out, I guess, right? Next up, Bad Baby Leech Lords. I mean, again, words that came out of my mouth that I never thought would. It's a relaunch. It's almost funded, $7,000 out of $8,000, $30 pledge. And if you want extras, you can buy more playmats, if you will. The game is relatively simple. You've got this pile of cards. You're going to be having this realm in front of you that you need to match the icons at the bottom of the cards you're just randomly flipping over. And if they do, you score a point. First 1 to 5 points wins. But all of these cards are also going to have special abilities that they're going to cause you to interact with either at your own area or other people's areas, because there's going to be some take that as well based on the iconography that you can see here. Matching before your opponent is key, and then destroy everything in the realm when you actually match. So there you go. The rules are out there. A couple inputs in terms of videos and quotes are there as well. They run you through the various factions that are going to be present as well in the game. And do you want to play extra for playmats? That's pretty much it. Price point is $30. If you want 2 playmats, again, $55. That's pretty much everything. The rulebook is on there. Give it a look, see if you want. Quick and dirty. There you go. Not really dirty, though. Kraken Skulls. Again, a very interesting small box indie game where you're doing dice mini games simultaneously as you move your ship around clockwise or counterclockwise from one area to the other, avoiding the Kraken, fighting the Kraken, or just trying to win these individual games as you go along. Little dice mini games, and you're playing anywhere from 2 to 5 players. So they show you a little bit of what the gameplay is going to be like down here with these 20 different dice mini games that you're going to have to do, and then simultaneously moving your ships around depending on where things are at and how you can manipulate what else, including the Kraken, is going to be at your same site. The rulebook is there. It gives you an example of how some of these games are actually going to be played, whether you're encountering adversaries, battling rivals, or just burying cards for extra points later on. Yeah, there you go. $30 again, and just a small indie box game. So funding goal there. You're going to get some expansions if they can get a little bit more funding, and you'll get a little bit better value for your money as well. And if you get more money, another expansion for all you fun backers. Dice-based minigame set of overall interacting games and a little bit of take that. That's Kraken Skulls. It'll be funded by the time you guys are probably watching this. So there you go. That's it. That's the roundup for this week. That's all I got. It's been a great week. Lots of interesting games, especially a couple small indie ones there at the end. A little bit for everybody. Now, the next 2 weeks aren't going to be as prolific, but there's still a couple big names launching between now and the end of the month. So we'll see kind of what else they have in store for us. And how tempted are you, from a wallet standpoint? Tune in tomorrow if you want to know a little bit more. And then Sunday, I'm going to be doing through another review, surprise review that might intrigue you. So, spoilers, take that for what you will. And that's all I got. Not working. Don't have anything going on this weekend. Kids have been having soccer camp. Kid had tryout for soccer. Still waiting for that phone call back to see where he made it, because they're not actually cutting people because they only had 25 kids try out for his age group. And they want to form 3 teams. So basically no one's getting cut, but they didn't actually tell us They told us like the 3 colors of the teams, but they didn't actually tell us like which one was which, right? Like A, B, C. So he's not going to be on A. He's not. I'm hoping for B, but I don't know. So I think we're going to do it though, because it's big of a time commitment it is, because it's like almost committing yourself to 9 months worth of practices and games over the fall, the winter, and the spring. Although winter is like only once a week of just practices. Everything else is like 2 to 3 times per week in the fall and the spring. And that's crazy. Kid's not even 8 yet. But I'm afraid that if he doesn't do it, if he does want to get serious about it, like in middle school or high school, he's going to be too far behind already. So that's freaking insane. Kids this age should not be doing that. But you could tell at the tryouts too, there were kids that had already been doing this like competitive, like pay way too much money for this since, you know, like 2 or 3 years already, even at his age, right? It's crazy. Ridiculous. But stay classy. Have a great freaking fantastic weekend and play something fun. That's what I'm going to try and do. See you around, guys. I did not know that there was this many Firefly clans out there. I did not know that there were this many Firefly clans